Okay, welcome everyone. This is such a great turnout. I am so excited to be doing this for you guys tonight. If you're just joining in, you can tell us in the chat where you are from. We've got people from all over the place, which is great. Super excited to have you here. Just to introduce myself, if you guys don't know me, my name is Brittany Raup, and I have about 20 years, excuse me, background in health promotion and wellness management. I absolutely love health and fitness. I worked for 12 years in a medical fitness center and worked in cancer prevention before switching to building a gut health business from home. And now I homeschool my 4 kids as well. And kind of our goal here with this Zoom is to just provide a wellness space. This is the first one I'm doing, and the goal is to do one every single month. So you guys are my guinea pigs. Thank you so much for joining me tonight. And really just to talk about different wellness topics and hopefully provide you with some great advice, great insight. And so we can all just like support each other on this wellness journey that we're on. And I'm really hoping you can walk away with some tools and tips that will help you throughout the new year. So this again is our very first educational Zoom. So thank you for being here. Our call tonight is going to be about understanding macronutrients. Okay. This is really a key for achieving your wellness goals. And I know we come into the new year with lots of wellness goals, lots of health goals, focus, and especially thinking about weight loss for many people. And it can be a really confusing space with lots of different advice. And so we're just going to gain some clarity tonight and come up with a simple game plan to help you maximize your nutrition and just really understand what macronutrients are. But just so I can know who I'm talking to, let's use the chat here and answer in the chat on a scale of 1 to 5. How much do you know about macronutrients? From 1 being absolutely nothing, I don't know what they are, to 5 being I'm pretty confident, I know some things, I'm just here to kind of fine tune my information. And do not be shy to say 1, okay? It's totally fine if you are a 1. Okay, I see a lot of 2s, some 1s, got a 4 in there, some 3s. Okay, that's super helpful to me. Thank you. All right, Kim's a 5, so we got an expert in the house. Love it. And so no judgment. I want you to know that if you're a 1, that actually is very exciting to me because this literally has the potential to change your life once you really understand what macronutrients are. So hopefully you'll learn something tonight, and it'll be practical advice that you can take with you this year to really help you with your wellness goals, because you can't out supplement a terrible diet. You can't out exercise a terrible diet. You really have to focus on nutrition if you want to see wellness gains and if you want to accomplish some wellness goals this year. So I read this. I can't tell you who it's from because I don't remember, but this quote, it stuck with me and I thought it was such a great summary. Calories determine the scale, right? What you weigh. Macronutrients determine how you look or your body composition, and micronutrients determine how you feel. So when thinking about your nutrition, all 3 are important. Usually my focus with education is on the micronutrients. I'm all about gut health and supplements. So that's where I usually focus in on, and maybe we'll have a Zoom on that later sometime this year. But tonight's focus is really on the macronutrients. Macro meaning big, right? So your big nutrients, micro meaning small. So those are your vitamins and minerals. Macros are your big nutrients. So just a couple things to know going in, and then we're going to dive into what are macros and how they work. Couple things to know is that it's not about perfection, okay? Not about perfection. You don't need perfect numbers to see results. Really, even just focusing in and making a few changes can still yield results, even if it's not perfect, okay? So it's not about perfection. Macros are simply a tool to bring awareness to your food decisions, because everything we eat is a decision we make, right? No one force feeds us. We get to make decisions about these things. And every food that we choose is either making a vote for or against the kind of lifestyle we want, the kind of person that we want to become, and the health goals that we have. Okay, so macros are a tool. And I just want you to remember this simple equation: protein plus consistency is greater than perfection. Okay, protein plus consistency is greater than perfection. So let's dive in. And if you guys have questions, please feel free to use the chat. I'll try to read them as I talk and answer them if possible or at the end. So let's dive in. What are macronutrients? Maybe you're like, I have no idea. I've seen this word floating around. I don't know what it is. So, what are macros? We're going to keep it simple. You have three macronutrients. They are protein, carbohydrates, and fats. Okay, protein, carbohydrates, and fats. Those are your macro, your big nutrients. They all have a job in the body. We're going to dive into each one. Protein, just to kind of summarize them before we get into the specifics, protein builds muscle, supports metabolism, and stabilizes blood sugar. Okay, it's really important. We're going to talk the most about protein because it's probably where you're lacking a little bit. If I know myself and the people I've worked with, this is where we struggle. The second one is carbohydrates. These are for energy and fuel for movement and your brain. Okay, carbs are your fuel. Fats are for hormones, brain health, and for fullness or satiety, like feeling satisfied with what you ate. Okay, and none of the macronutrients are bad. We need them all, but our typical American diet tends to be extremely carb heavy and it can be very fat heavy too. And one thing I love to say is if you eat the typical American diet, you will get the typical American diseases. Okay. So what we know is that heart disease, obesity, type 2 diabetes, cancer, dementia, right? We see that so prevalent. And so we want to understand how we can use these macronutrients and do our best to eat appropriately to be as healthy as we can. We're still maybe going to struggle with different things down the road. Genetics plays a huge part, but we want to do the best with what we've been given. So, and speaking of the American diet, did you guys see like just today the revamp of the food pyramid? I know Alicia did because we were talking about it, but just today, like it's literally been turned upside down with protein and fat at the top and carbohydrates on the bottom, which is a huge win. Like just that awareness that we do really need protein and fat, and we really don't need tons and tons of carbohydrates. So cool. Yes, Chelsea, you saw it. Awesome. And I just pulled this quote off of the new Food Pyramid website. It says, "We are ending the war on protein. Every meal must prioritize high quality, nutrient dense protein from both animal and plant sources, paired with healthy fats." Yep, I love it. Chelsea's got the graphic right there. Protein target being 0.54 to 0.73 grams per pound of body weight per day. And we'll get into some details like that. But I was like, yes, that's what we're talking about tonight. I was really excited to see that. So I love that like even science is showing like we really do need to prioritize protein and whole foods. So those three big macronutrients, the protein, the carbs, the fats, they work together, not against each other, and we just need to learn how to balance them appropriately. Our bodies are designed to use all three. Okay, so problems don't come just from eating protein or from eating carbs or fat. They come when we have imbalance or the quality is poor, or maybe we just really have the timing off with our nutrition. So let's dive into each one, learn a little bit more. And I'm going to try to give you some practical like meal tips as well, because that's where the rubber hits the road, right? Like, how do I change my diet to really maximize these macronutrients? So let's dive into protein. And this is where we're going to spend the most time. Okay. And by the way, this won't be more than 30 minutes total. So that's why I'm talking fast. I've got a lot to share, but I respect your time and we'll be wrapped up by 9. Okay. So protein, you probably know your basic protein foods. This would be your meats, right? Chicken, turkey, beef, your eggs, especially egg whites, your fish and seafood, which are a very low fat option for protein. So I love fish and seafood. Greek yogurt, cottage cheese, beans and lentils, and then of course like protein bars and powders. Protein is super important for building and repairing muscle. I see a lot of ladies on this call, if not all ladies. Nope, we might have a gentleman here, but especially for women, we tend to not eat enough protein. Like it's crazy how much we undereat protein, and we're also losing muscle. So it's like this vicious cycle, and we're like, why do I feel so weak? Why are my hormones all messed up? Why is my metabolism so sluggish? When you eat the proper amount of protein, it really, really makes a difference. So super important for building muscle, supporting your metabolism, stabilizing your blood sugar, and supporting your immune function and just helping you feel full and satisfied. So, in my 20 years of working with hundreds and hundreds of women, I have seen under eating protein as probably the most common problem that I find. Most women don't even eat half of the protein that their body needs. And that really leaves us craving carbs and fat, right? There's this huge deficit in our protein. So we crave carbs and fat. And it's a vicious cycle of you eat the carbs, the blood sugar goes up, your body pumps out insulin, the blood sugar drops, you're craving carbs. You eat the carbs, right? And the cycle continues. But protein really helps level you out. Some common mistakes with protein, we talked about just eating too little. That's probably number one. Eating most of your protein only at dinner. Maybe you can relate, like I do okay at dinner, but breakfast and lunch, I'm not getting any. Um, or starting the day with very low protein. So if you think about our breakfast foods that we usually eat, oatmeal, cereal, bagel, toast, right? It's like carbs, carbs, carbs. So if you're not currently getting protein with your breakfast, that's one simple change you can make that will really help. And relying on carbs for energy instead of protein. So when you rely on carbs for energy, it's a cycle. You'll crash and you'll crave more carbs. But when you incorporate protein, it's much more stable. Okay, so those mistakes, they lead to constant hunger and cravings, low energy, and difficulty losing fat or maintaining muscle. And I just want to talk about under eating in general for a second. I so many times when I worked in the medical fitness center, I had to tell women you need to eat more. Women that are trying to lose weight so often undereat. So a little bit of a calorie deficit is needed to lose weight, right? Like usually like a 500 calorie deficit over what your body needs. But so many women do 1,000 calorie deficit or more than that. They're barely eating at all. And they're like, I can't lose weight. It's just sticking on me. And what's happening is your body goes into starvation mode where it really holds on to fat tissue. And it's because your body's like, I don't know when my next meal is coming. I don't know if I'm going to have enough calories. So I am going to hold on to this fat and not let it go. You're in starvation mode. When you actually start fueling your body appropriately, it revs up your metabolism and it helps your body be willing to let go of fat. So if that sounds like you, like, man, yes, I've been restricting majorly and not losing weight, you might actually have to eat more. And it can take about 8 weeks, which I know, like, we want the Amazon Prime version or the microwave version, like, put my body in the microwave and get it out in 30 seconds and it's perfect. It takes about 8 weeks to fix your metabolism. So if that's you, just know it's a process. You're going to have to increase your calories, increase your protein, and then give your body a little time to be okay with dropping the fat weight. Okay. So just know it's not Amazon Prime. Your different physique is not showing up in 48 hours, but it's okay. It's totally worth the process. So those are some things to guard against with protein. Here's what to look for. Whole foods, okay? Real whole foods and anti-inflammatory options. So there's lots of food that has protein kind of shoved into it. Or you think about like meat sticks and that kind of stuff that has a lot of nitrates or is highly processed. They can cause a lot of inflammation. So whole foods, anti-inflammatory options. My go-tos are egg whites, eggs too, but especially egg whites, chicken, turkey, beef, fish, seafood, high quality protein powder. You need to check the label on your protein, okay? A lot of protein powders are full of stuff you don't want in your body. You need to check for artificial flavors. You need to check for fake sugars like sucralose and aspartame. You need to check for carrageenan. Like if there's a whole lot of ingredients that don't sound like food, it's probably not something you want to put in your body. But there are some really good protein powders out there that can help, especially when you're in a pinch. Like I've got 4 kids. Sometimes a protein shake is the best that I can do in the morning, and it's great, right? I still get my protein in. And here's what I want you to know. If protein isn't planned, it usually gets undereaten. Okay, so you can probably assume if you're not really focused and planning your protein, you most likely are not getting enough. Okay. So simple adjustments that make a huge difference. Find your protein need. I am going to try to copy and paste this little tool in the chat. Let's see if it works. There is a free macros calculator that you can use. If you want to copy and paste that link, you can plug your numbers in later. But you like find your protein need. You need about 1 gram of protein per lean pound of body weight. So not your total weight, but your lean weight. You might not know your lean weight, but um, it can get a little dicey once you get into the numbers. So I do like using a macros calculator just to see what the recommendation is because it'll do all the calculating for you. Um, and then when you use this macros calculator, it will spit out kind of your recommendations based on your activity level, your height and weight, male or female, your age. Then it'll give you different options. I like to choose high protein for the result, okay? Because the default is a pretty carb heavy, here's how many macros you should have. When you do high protein, it'll kick the protein up and the carbs down. So if you use that tool, select high protein, and that will give you exactly for you with your age and weight what your protein recommendation would be. But if that feels too complicated and you're like, I need simpler than that to make some changes, a really easy adjustment is to just plan for 30 to 50 grams of protein with every meal. Okay, 30 to 50 grams. That means that you'll end the day with 90 to 150 grams of protein. And I can almost guarantee you that's more than you're getting right now. Usually women eat about like 50 grams of protein a day, and we need like 100, 125, 150, depending on your body size. So planning for 30 to 50 grams with each meal is so doable and really makes a massive change. And I find it easy to just get some easy, simple, repeatable meals that hit that protein goal. So one breakfast option I love is a cup of Greek yogurt with a scoop of protein powder. That hits like 40 grams of protein for me, or 2 egg whites and cottage cheese. Or I'll make a protein shake with 2 scoops of protein and PB Fit powder. You guys use the peanut butter powder. That's so good and it packs a lot of protein in. I also love chia seed pudding. You can do turkey sausage and egg white and veggie omelets. Like there's lots of options, but get a couple, how many breakfast options do you need? I need like 4 or 5 and I'm happy. I feel like I've got enough variety, but a couple options that hit that protein goal. For lunch ideas, you can do tuna salad on a lettuce wrap. Any kind of green salad with grilled chicken or turkey will be awesome for your macros. I love chicken soup made with bone broth. Bone broth is great, packs a lot more protein than just regular chicken broth. Bowls, right? Like quinoa bowls, turkey taco bowls, turkey and avocado, like all of those yummy quinoa based bowls you can do are high in protein. Those are some of my favorites. And then dinner, I feel like is probably where we know what we're doing a little bit. If you stick to building your meal around a meat or protein, a low glycemic carb. So we're going to talk about carbs in a sec, but some low glycemic carbs would be quinoa, brown rice, sweet potato, and then veggies, right? Lots and lots of veggies because you need those micronutrients too. You can also really have a great protein meal with soups and chili. Great when it's cold. It's been like freezing in Pennsylvania, so I've been eating a ton of soup. Um, Greek chicken bowl, sheet pan dinners. I love sheet pan salmon and broccoli. So easy, one dish to wash. There's so many good high protein dinners, but you really want to build your meal around protein. Okay, that's the takeaway. And we spent the most time talking about protein because it really is usually the biggest problem area and where we need the most education. But let's switch gears and talk about carbs. Okay. Kim said, double the amount of protein in the recipe without doubling the rest. Great tip. I love that. Okay, so carbohydrates are the body's preferred energy source. They break down the quickest into glucose, that's sugar, which gives fuel to your muscles and your brain. Your brain needs sugar. But what's great is your liver can actually break down glycogen to give your brain sugar if you're not eating it. That's why fasting works and we don't die because our body is equipped to handle it. But you can see why we crave carbs. They're the quickest energy source. And that's important. Carbs aren't bad. They do fuel the brain and the nervous system. They really support your workouts and your movement. They help regulate your hormones and they replenish muscle glycogen. So carbs aren't the enemy. You can think of carbs as fuel. But where do the problems come in? You probably know too many refined carbs, right? Sugar, white flour, really, really processed foods that are full of gluten instead of whole grain, low glycemic carbs. That's where you want to, if you're taking in carbs, you want them to be low glycemic, which means they don't jack your blood sugar up as much. Not eating enough fiber rich carbs, so just like empty calories, cookies, cakes, all the things we enjoyed all December that we're like, okay, time to cut back on those. And another problem is just eating carbs without protein, right? If you just have carbs, that blood sugar is going to spike, but when you pair it with protein, it calms down that blood sugar response. So not thinking of carbs as bad, but like, okay, I need to make sure I've got a protein going on with it. And another problem is being so afraid of carbs or having so much like head trash around carbs that we cut too low, and it can cause fatigue or just cravings that are out of control because you're never eating carbs. So those are some of the problems with carbohydrates. You don't want to be on this blood sugar roller coaster, and you don't want to be causing inflammation in your body. So here's some tips and the little adjustments you can make is to, first of all, just watch your portion size of carbohydrates, right? We like to eat like a huge plate of pasta. No, like make it a side dish, make it a quarter of your plate. Just watch your portions. Never eat carbs alone. And I don't mean by yourself. I mean, pair it with protein. Okay. Don't eat carbs alone. Like make sure it's got its protein buddy and focus on those low glycemic carbs. So quinoa, sweet potato, brown rice, oats, beans, and lentils actually have a lot of carbohydrate in them as well. And so do fruits and vegetables. So natural sources of carbs. And what you want to avoid is your white carbs. So your pasta, your rice, your potatoes. Gluten-free pasta that's made with quinoa and brown rice is delicious. Like my kids eat it. I get it at Aldi. It's really cheap. It tastes great. So plug for that. Also avoid carb only meals, right? Like those, especially breakfast. I think like pancakes, French toast, those carb only meals and the highly refined and processed foods. And I'll just make a little plug here for learning how to make sourdough. This has been a huge win for my family over the past several years. Maybe we can do a call on that by itself sometime, but I make an artisan loaf that has just 4 ingredients. It ferments for over 24 hours, so the gluten content is low, and it's actually so easy to make. It's like so easy to make. So if you haven't learned how to make sourdough, that is also a great tool. And that macros calculator, it will give you your grams of carbs needed daily too. It really depends on your activity level. Okay. So if you're running 5 miles every day, you're going to need more carbohydrates than someone who isn't exercising. So make sure you're honest with your activity level because it really does play into the macros that you need. Okay, final macronutrient is fats. Fats get a bad rep, and it's just because fat packs more calories per gram than protein and carbs. Okay, this is why we have to be careful with fats. They're so needed, they're not bad for you, but protein and carbs have 4 calories per gram, and fat has 9 calories per gram. So you can see that if you're heavy on your fats, the calories will really add up quickly. So you just need to watch your overall intake and don't blow up your calories, but it's still an important nutrient, has several jobs. It supports your hormones. It helps with your vitamin absorption. So vitamins A, D, E, and K all need fat for absorption. Fat also supports your brain health, and every neuron in your body needs fat to function. Okay, so very important macronutrient, and it helps you feel satisfied after meals. The problem areas with fat are just too many calories from fat or eating highly processed fats like really inflammatory seed oils, vegetable oil, really processed meats, processed snack foods, greasy foods, and just fat heavy meals that, again, are lacking in protein. Okay. So that can really cause inflammation in your body. Some healthy fats that you should eat: olive oil is great, avocados, nuts and seeds, fatty fish, omegas, seeds. Seeds have a lot of healthy fat. So chia, flax, pumpkin, they're also great for hormones. So getting some seeds, sprinkle that onto your Greek yogurt, super helpful. Grass-fed butter or ghee, coconut or MCT oil, and then pasture-raised eggs and olives, all great sources of fat. We got chickens this year and I've been loving having fresh eggs. It's so good and they're so nutrient dense. The color is different. And I'm not afraid of fat. I enjoy those eggs. I know it's good for my brain. It's good for hormones. And you can easily work in a healthy fat with your protein. So for example, sheet pan chicken with veggies and olive oil, right? They work together. That's a great fat to pair with your protein. Or like I said, the Greek yogurt with chia seeds, a turkey taco bowl with avocado, eggs with turkey or chicken sausage. Like really, they're designed to work great together. That's why they taste so good together. Yes, avocado oil is fine. Regular avocados are going to be even better, but as far as oils go, I like olive oil and coconut oil the best. MCT oil is great too. Avocado is definitely better than sunflower oil, canola, vegetable. Those are your more inflammatory ones, okay? So those are your three macronutrients, your big nutrients. There are micronutrients galore. We definitely can't get into them tonight, but the macros are the big nutrients that you need to understand in order to hit your nutrition goals. So in these last couple of minutes, let's just bring it together and have some takeaways. Remember that protein stabilizes, carbs energize, and fats satisfy. So they're working together. Protein stabilizes, carbs energize, and fats satisfy. And again, I said this at the beginning, but your calories determine the scale, your macronutrients determine how you look, and your micronutrients determine how you feel. So if you're just doing calorie restriction, you might lose weight, but you might also lose a ton of muscle and really not be happy with how you feel and how you look. So they all work together. So how do we put this into action without going crazy, overhauling our entire diet, or like setting really unrealistic goals? I would say build your meal around protein. Shoot for that 30 to 50 grams of protein at every meal. Pair it with a healthy fat, pair it with a low glycemic carb, but really focus on that 30 to 50 grams of protein per meal. And what I've found is when I'm getting enough protein, the other nutrients kind of fall into place because I'm not craving carbs so much, right? I use MyFitnessPal to track my nutrition. There's lots of good apps out there. It's just the one I found to be helpful. And you don't need the paid version to see your macros. Just so you know, you can just click on your overall calories for the day after you've logged, and it will give you your nutrition breakdown. So I personally, like you can set your goals. I set mine to 40% protein, 40% carbs, and 20% fat. That just works well for me, but you can adjust based on how much protein you want in your diet. And it helps me hit that high protein goal and still have enough carbohydrate for workouts. And so if you haven't logged your nutrition before, I would really encourage you to start. And step one is just start tracking your food. Like, don't judge it, just raise awareness. Start tracking. The percentages I use are 40% protein, 40% carbs, 20% fat. Now, I keep 40% carbs because I'm a runner and I'm exercising pretty much every day. So I know I need that carbohydrate. It may be a little different depending on how much you exercise, but start logging your food. Find an app that works, use a piece of paper, whatever, but just start writing down. I think an app is helpful because it'll do the calculations for you. And MyFitnessPal has a huge inventory of like every food you can imagine is already in there. Just raise awareness by tracking your nutrition. Like that's step one, right? Once you got that habit down, just focus on hitting your protein goal. Don't worry about carbs. Don't worry about fat. Just hit your protein goal and you'll start to see things falling into place. Then once you've got that down, right, you can layer on the other pieces, but really that protein is going to make all the difference. And just remember, you don't need to eat perfectly balanced at every meal. You're looking for balance over time, not perfection. Not every single meal is going to be perfect, but just focusing on your nutrition is a huge win. Like that's so worth celebrating and you'll see results even if it isn't perfect. Okay. So it is 9. I will wrap up. I am going to give you guys one other link. Let me copy it in here so you can grab it. Okay. This is a really short Google form that if you want to be on an invite list for these wellness Zooms we're going to do in the future, you're just going to fill out that little form and give me your email address and I'll make sure that you get an invite each month to the wellness Zooms that we're doing. We're going to cover all different topics. And there's also a spot on there that if there's a topic that you would really love to hear more about, maybe perimenopause, or you want to hear more about micronutrients, or you want to hear more about gut health, please tell me and I'll make sure we work this into the rotation because I'm committed to doing one every single month. So any suggestions you have, or if you just want to connect more one-on-one about your personal nutrition and wellness goals, please just note that in the forum and I'll reach out to you. I love to chat and help people feel healthy, live their best. I know what a huge difference it can make. And I want to thank you guys for being my guinea pigs and being the first ones on these wellness Zooms. If you enjoyed it, please invite people to the next one. And hopefully we'll see you next month. So have a wonderful night. Happy New Year. And hopefully I will talk to you soon. Thanks, guys.